to see how it affects urban real estate prices. So, because I think that, some people were in la la land, but this is going to take a while to show itself financially. And I don't mean to, just turn this into a money thing, but hey, that's what this, when I come and talk here, that's what we try to, it all becomes financial, the ability to find opportunities to trade. So
well, nobody's going, none of these major corporations are going back into these districts where they created these zones. I mean, why would you?
well, you're going to be awfully careful. You're going to be awfully careful. And then, I don't know. I was appalled, and I'm gonna let him have it. That there was the article in the FT today from what's his name, Schwaber, the guy who runs the Davos. Talking about how they were going to meet in Davos. You know what? Davos is part of the problem. I got news for you. His comments were that the world needs Davos because that's where, problems, what was the exact quote? It was so upsetting. I had to.
I read it last night. I can't even remember it.
Yeah, I got it. Trust me. It irritates me so much because my battle cry for the last 9 years has been pepper spray Davos. And just in case you're watching these scenes, that's what they should be doing to the people when they gather at Davos, pepper spray them. Make them cry like they make everybody else cry. Oh, the purpose of the 2021 meeting would be to plot, that's the right word, to plot, a great reset of capitalism, Mr. Schwab said, contending the pandemic had laid bare the deficiencies of an old system that had neglected infrastructure, healthcare, and social security system. In the end, everyone will be better off if we cooperate compared to following an egoistic path. Ha! I tell you what, when you spend $650,000 to buy a ticket to an event so you can gain some type of inside information, and that's what it is, from some politician who you and I don't get access to or get to talk to in that regard, or some CEOs who come, you know what, why else? That's my question. Why do you pay such a ridiculous, well, I'm not going to call it ridiculous, they evidently think there's value, but why is that ticket at such a high price if you don't believe you're getting something that other people don't have access to?
Well, that's the PAC circuit, Ira. Let's go to dinner every night. I mean, my brother's budget was $2 million a year for dinner.
I know what it is. I'm not, this is beyond that though, because here they sit, and I think any politician who goes there is doing himself or herself a disservice, and really should be really called on the carpet. Where do you go? Or any cabinet, what are you going there for? If you don't have access to these people outside of there, well, then you're not very worthy. Your office, to be able to talk to those who are most significant, should be a revolving door without ever leaving Washington. And I'm not talking about from lobbyists, but if, it's like anytime the president wants to call a roundtable in the White House, he doesn't have a problem bringing people there. No president ever has. Look at Obama with healthcare. People lined up to get into that. So, it was irritating. As I said, and then somebody said to me, oh, they were talking about one of the firms who was, where was it? Who was involved in the bond stuff. What firm? Treasury. Justin Micinich, his family is involved in the bond market. They have a big firm, and he's the deputy treasury secretary with a prominent role in the policy of bond purchases. Come on! So when somebody sent me that story, I said, "Okay, great. See you on Michigan Avenue." I mean, because that's you get, how much irritation can you get? Come on, at least
Same thing with the Weather Service. That's why he was saying that there was going to be a hurricane in Georgia. It's the same.
What's that?
You know, they give these people power, and they've got ulterior motives.
Oh, yeah. I mean, they sit there.
That's all it is.
Yep. No question. No question.
So I thought you'd like that thing yesterday I wrote with Monison and Shepard, and I think Raz and Marty and Steve, and I don't know who else was at the table that morning. You weren't. I don't know if you were even down there then. The gold was still in the hundreds, and Monison was seriously trying to get everybody to buy a half track.
You know what? He spent too much time in Vietnam. Sorry, dear. You know he was a Marine.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
In Nam. So listen, that was a place that destroyed more people than who I knew who went. Terrible. Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I just started. I think I was 26 years old, and I'm listening to this conversation. I was in disbelief, and they were serious. I mean, they were really serious about it. And here it is 40 years later, and it's happening.
Well, it's you know what? We'll see where this goes, but I don't think it's anywhere near from over, because there is just a lot of pent up anger, and it's coming from all facets in all stages. Farmers have, and actually they've been pretty quiet, but they've paid a dear price. Yeah, there's been a lot of subsidies, but the Trump policies have really done some damage. And then again, I went back to the time when, it's amazing. The last time I think the dollar rallied was when Trump talked about that he liked a strong dollar. But he should have, I called him out in the blog because that was ridiculous. But the dollar's weakened, especially against the emerging markets, which is a positive factor. The Fed has to be happy. You won't ever get them to say anything. And Mnuchin's too busy doing whatever he's doing. Nobody will talk about it. But I guess there's a G7 finance minister meeting tomorrow, which is a joke. And actually, Trump with the G7, Merkel said, well, I'm not coming because she doesn't want to show her face. She's riding high right now. And you'd think that she'd actually want to come and do a little battle, but she's not. So he said, okay, we'll cancel it. And by the way, I'm inviting Russia, India, and others, and which he should, because the G7 is a ridiculous concept. It's like the holdovers of all these agencies from the 50s and 60s that stopped being purposeful and lost their sense of what they were really about. And the G7, it's over. It's ridiculous. The G20 has much more relevance. So if you want to do that, but the just all you do is have a look to see who the members of the G7 are. Really? Italy? Canada? The UK? Let's see, Germany, France, Japan, and the United States. Really? That's who is helping to set policy in some type of global, with some type of global backdrop? Yeah, sorry, it's kind of ridiculous to me, but everybody likes their photo ops.
So I listened to that Bannon.
Oh yeah,
twice.
Yeah,
I mean, that was amazing. I mean, I couldn't believe how much stuff I agreed with him on.
Well, whether you agree, it doesn't matter. But he is, to me, he's Jiminy Cricket to Donald Trump. Not that he's his conscience, but he is. Donald Trump doesn't have a brain trust. He is Bannon. Because I look at Kudlow, I laugh. I look at Wilbur Ross, I laugh. Mnuchin makes me laugh. Unfortunately, I don't really want to laugh. The only one I really respect is Lighthizer. But Bannon, and I argued with a lot of liberal friends of mine because they were happy to see Bannon get tossed aside because remember he had a national security post. And I said, no, you'd rather have him there because once he's cut free and loose, he's just a citizen. And he's totally unaccountable. he has no official standing. So what are you going to call him on the carpet for? Nothing. And how is it that he gets access to everybody and everything? So that's why I like listening to him. And he's a very smart guy. And
Oh, yeah.
And you know what? And he knows. You saw how well prepared he had read that woman's. He kept telling
10,008, however many words.
right, and he had them all outlined and notes written. He was prepared, and all she did was want to try to slap him down. She was and she's a bright woman, but she was out of her league. So she had to keep challenging him on this and this, and of course they always come back to that he's a racist, and he handles it so deftly. No, I'm not. You're missing the point, but that's the fallback. And they don't even realize how ridiculous they eventually sound. And one of the most beautiful aspects of that interview, and being a father of 3 daughters who I tried to raise with great backbone and strength and to be independent, I really loved it. So when she pushes at him, what's that movement? I had never heard of it. So from the women's our turn or time's up or something. So his response, he says, really, you don't think I'm about strong women, independent women? He says, my daughter went to West Point, and now I said, wow, and she didn't even know how badly beaten she was with that. But he just like, well, let me accept, don't go there, because that's the knee-jerk place to go, which is, well, it's about women. He says, don't tell me about that. My daughter, I raised her to be strong and independent, fiercely independent. And she did a tour of duty, and we were in Iraq. You know what? He was loaded.
Well, where he really got her was on he said, no, I was for 44% taxes on the wealthy.
Right. And they pushed him out.
Yeah,
he said, you can't disagree. And I absolutely agreed with him. You know what? And he went after the Wall Street crowd, the Davos crowd. Yeah, he handled Davos so beautifully, and I'm such an anti-Davos person, have been at the beginning, and I'm really pissed that I never made those buttons and sold them. Pepper spray Davos, big seller. Because a friend of my son's, who's a graphic artist, when he read the blog initially, when I put that in there, he said, I'll design them for you and make you. I said, Chris, he says, no, really. And I kind of let it go by, but it's been my battle cry. I am not a Davos fan in any way, shape, or form. I just don't see it. I'm not a G30 fan. And there was an article by this guy, Bob Johnson, last week in the FT talking about the integrity of Philippe Hildebrand. And I actually wrote a response to the FT because he called him a man of great integrity. Excuse me? The guy was tossed out of the Swiss National Bank because his wife was trading in currency markets on his tips. Oh, yeah. That's got a lot of integrity in my book.
Yeah, front running all the trades.
Yeah, the guy, you can go see it. Robert Johnson, who I guess had worked with Soros, talking about this guy's, I go, hardly. I'm sorry. And the fact that he's a member of the G30 makes me call into question. And you know what? That's why I have no stomach for Krugman, because Krugman sits on the G30. And I'm sorry. You know what? That's as C. Wright Mills would say, that's the power elite. And that's all garbage as far as I'm concerned. I'm not buying it. So that's my political for the day. And that's nonpartisan and just whack them all, because you know what? No, I believe in capitalism. Not crony capitalism, but capitalism. And there is a far difference. If I want crony capitalism, I'll live in Argentina or Brazil. Or, wait, hold on. Or Germany or France. Well, I got a lot of places I could live. Certainly Russia. Certainly China. How about when Davos in 2017, after Trump was elected, and Xi came to the Davos conference, and they named him, they're like the free trader of the century or something. Oh, you can't make this stuff up. Oh, they're getting to the metals. That's good.
Yeah, they're hitting the metals big time, all of
Yeah,
them.
very, very big time, yeah.
ORL and platinum right now. I don't know if that follows through.
Yep.
POS, so all the silver miners have just come undone with
Yeah.
top V patterns. I don't know if it's real or not.
Right. Right. Well,
But, you know, they're buying infrastructure names and they're still buying copper. So they're just buying copper and selling everything else.
listen, they've given you a hell of a run here for, quite a while. And you know what, again, you don't buy it on political. How many times do you need to see that you don't buy gold? You don't buy gold because the streets are in turmoil. I'm quoting William O. Douglas, who wrote that beautiful pamphlet, The Points of Rebellion, in 1968, I think. But the streets of our country are in turmoil. But again, it's a geopolitical event, very short-lived. But what will be the policy response? That'll be why you buy gold. It's the policy response. It's not the action itself. How will it be met? So that's where we reside. And I don't know, again, we'll sift this through. Now, we're coming to an ECB meeting. Last night we had the Australians, and I'm surprised that the Aussie was up this morning as much as it was. But I'll tell you what, that's now. When did we talk about the commodity effect and emerging markets and the turn in the Canada? What was it, about 2 weeks ago?
Yeah.
So now we've been on a one-way ride here, but I think that when I look at the Aussie Kiwi, I look at the Aussie Canada, the Aussie is, I think, way out in front of itself. And when I read the release from the Australian bank, I thought it was, well, pretty much it was totally as expected. But the fact that they're doing yield curve out to 3 years and trying to keep the 3-year and under at 25 basis points or lower, I make that very dovish, the Australian, because they will keep this. And what was really interesting, even with the rise in the Australian dollar, and I guess that's why the Aussie took a bid, not one word in that release, in that statement about the Aussie dollar. That's highly unusual. Usually, who's ever the governor of the the Reserve Bank of Australia, there's been talk, well, the Aussie dollar has been weak, so there's no, so policy's always cited, not one word about the Aussie dollar. That I found very interesting. And that may be why the Aussie was up as much as it was, because they didn't seem to be concerned about its rise in value. Because you would see something that we have to be a little weaker, we may be more aggressive because the Australian dollar has strengthened, but not a word. So something to be aware of. And then we get the ECB. Now the FT. I don't know that the ECB, I was expecting Lagarde to be more aggressive, but now that we have the Schweible pivot, I'm not sure that the ECB is going to change anything, because they may not want to, upset the apple cart at this time. She's gotten really everything that she wants, and maybe a little bit more, because even Merkel was coming up with another 100 billion in the budget. And as long as it's the German government, and that was my point about Schweible, is that the German High Court may at least deem his involvement now and his support as what they were looking for, because he is the president of the Bundestag. So it returns everything. I don't know, is Robert on? Where's Robert at? Judd?
Yeah, sorry, he's probably working.
Okay, all right, because he'll, but Schweible, and he is the second most powerful person, because he controls what goes through the Bundestag. So if he's on board with this, now there is legislative input into this. Very important. And that's what, when I said that a week ago, when I read that about Schweible, and I texted you that night, or that on Monday morning. I said, this is pretty critical. And then I think we discussed it the next day on Tuesday or whatever, because we were
Yeah, well,
close.
some didn't see it that way. I tried to convince them that you needed to be out of your long dollar positions and short
Yeah.
dollars.
Yeah, I know. Listen, I got a lot of pushback. Everybody's been bullish the dollar because, there is a shortage of dollars. And yes, that's true. Yeah, there's no question. And like now I said, hey, I know what the underlying is. Watch the technicals, and they'll give you a turn in the picture here. But Schwabel's pivot I thought was really important. Really important. It gave new life to the concept of a fiscal harmonization in Europe. And kind of put to bed the frugal four. So, but we'll see. But I don't think you're going to see, that's just my opinion. I don't think you're going to see much change from the Bundesbank. I mean, from the ECB. I just don't see it.
Well, as long as you're here,
Yeah.
let me go to this other screen and let's get your thoughts on these European bond rolls.
Oh, you know what? Yeah, this is tricky though. Again, if the coupons stay the same, then those gaps have legitimacy. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
But if the coupon, I have to know what the coupons are. And of course, I'm not trading cash, I'm only trading the futures, and I'm no different than you.
Yeah, well, the Bunds are 300 over, and everything else is massively under. So it should.
I'm actually making money on the short side of the euro today. I sold it up there. I didn't have any levels, but I was watching the European bonds and I go, interesting. So I'm just covering. So, yeah, we'll watch these roll. When do they expire? This Thursday?
Monday. Well, yeah, the Friday's probably the last day, and then Monday they roll.
Yeah. Yeah. And technically the Bunds look as they should, because those yield spreads should continue to compress. Where we had this morning, I mean, these aren't quite up to date, but they're pretty fresh. Let's see. So the German French spread has come in from 53.54 to 37. So that's been a nice move. And of course, the Italian came in from, I think, what was that, like 255 when we were in those 260, and we're into 191 this morning. We were as low as 181 yesterday. So that's been a pretty sizable move based on that. And it's taken the euro, or the euro took that right with it. I don't know. I'm trying to figure out which one really comes first. And I don't know that it really makes a difference. So that's where it resides. I've been very impressed with the Canada. A lot of people have had those wrong, but as soon as certain people put things out, and as I pointed out, and I pointed that out last week, that the euro yen and euro Swiss were really big movers. Again today, look at the move in the euro yen today.
Yeah, well, Canada's right at this 200 days, so.
Yeah, it's done big work here. That's some of it's oil, but Canada's a huge commodity player. Huge commodity player. So, just like, but I think the Aussie is getting ahead of itself. That's my.
Well, this euro yen's the one that's interesting. Especially this monthly formation is incredible.
Yeah, let me go get on that page on my own. Let's see.
Yeah, well, that's why I wrote that piece last week, and I said euro yen gets above whatever it was, 119.68. Anybody that's long dollars should capitulate because you're going to get rolled.
Yeah, wait, hold on. Let me call it up. We're 121.25. This has been like a 4% move, I think, 5%. Let's see. We made the low on May 7th. Oh, interesting day, May 7th. 7 days of May, perfect timing. So we made a low at 114.38. So we're at 121. This has been a very straight up move of what, 5 or 6%?
Yeah.
And even more interesting is that with the euro going up, the European stocks have had a pretty good run here. Better than the S&Ps over the last 10 days.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's really Germany. Well, first of all, Switzerland was the one that was leading originally, and now Germany's in. The Nikkei is at the half of the life of Nikkei again up here. So this is going to struggle big time around that 23,000 level.
Yeah. But again, I don't think you're going to see any significant change with the ECB. I just don't see it.
And we were looking at some of these other emerging, I was looking at Chile because of the copper trade,
Yeah.
and that looks pretty good. Taiwan looks good. And Mexico, well, Russia looks good. I mean,
Mexico has been a really, it's like somebody's woken up to exactly what that scenario is. But again, and there are a lot of people, pissing on Mexico because, yeah, they've got a lot of problems. And you can't deny the problems. The problems are, of course, the corruption. Yeah, there's no getting away from it. None. But it's time for AMLO to really step up and pull Lula. If he's got, I think he's a good politician, and he should sense that. That's what a lot of this is based on, especially because so many firms just want to shrink their supply lines, meaning distance, they want to shrink them. And Mexico fills the void. First of all, because it sits between South America and North America. Well, it's part of North America, but it's really well located, as good access to global markets by water, has a very good workforce. We know that. And it's got a lot going for it. It's just so freaking corrupt. But, as I said to you, I don't know whether anybody has watched that Trevor Noah piece. Watch that?
No, I haven't seen it.
Trevor Noah did a really good piece. And it's, again, I'm not making a political statement. It's a thoughtful piece. That's what I mean. It's a thoughtful piece. And the person who sent it to me is a dyed-in-the-wool liberal. But I made the comment, and I haven't heard back from him yet, but I will, because I'm going to see him tomorrow. And he's going to, and I told him, I said, look, that's nice. This view is great. But if you have been in business in Chicago, if you've been a developer, if you've paid off people in Chicago to do business and keep the Democratic regime in power for 90 years, it's possible for what we see as anybody else. I got news for you. Me, I've been anti-Chicago corruption since the day I could read Mike Royko when I was probably 11 years old in 1964. And I grew up in it. I grew up in the city. I saw firsthand. Listen, this is a factual story. My parents moved into Rogers Park in 1953. The year Mayor Daley was, I'm sorry, 52, because my brother was just born. So they went from the hospital. So 52, 53, my mother, you people probably don't even know what a precinct captain is, but precinct captains were very powerful because they had 500 to 700 people who they were in touch with as part of the Democratic machine, although we had a Republican alderman, Jack Sperling, that's a joke and a half. And they would knock on your door. They would know your birthday. Every year, the ward committeeman, I'd go to the Northtown Theater and at Thanksgiving, and they would have a big raffle because they would shake down all the businesses on Devon Avenue for gifts, and you'd see some movie and have free popcorn and blah, blah, blah. So that was the way they operated. So in 1953, it was the mayoral election, and the precinct captain asked my mother if he had her support to vote for Richard J. Daley. And my mother said yes. So the day after the election, she gets a knock on the door, and he goes, "Mrs. Harris, you promised me your support. You didn't vote for Richard Daley." And my mother said, "How do you know that?" He says, "Doesn't matter how I know it. You told me I had your support and you didn't vote for him." So my mother didn't vote for 20 years. Did not vote. She was so upset about it. So in 1973, I was teasing her. I was already in college and very active politically. And she voted for Mayor Daley in 1973 in the mayoral election. And I said, "Mom, what are you doing?" She said, "Well," and that was the year he was being accused of funneling city insurance business to his kids' insurance agency. And he said, "Look, if I can't help my kids, you can kiss my ass." That's a famous news press conference that he had. So my mother said, "Okay, I agree with him on that, so I'm going to vote for him." First time she voted in 20 years.
Well, yeah, and all the precinct people, I mean, my aunts used to
Yeah,
hand out $5 bills to everybody that was going into
on election day,
on
walking around money. Hey,
walking around money.
they had to have the bars closed until like 4 o'clock or something. That was the rule,
Yeah, so they gave them money to go have a couple of beers after they voted.
Listen, right before election day, we would get new garbage cans. If you needed, all of a sudden the alleys would get paved or whatever they promised. Chicago, classic Chicago. But I said to him, I said, "Don't send me this stuff." Decrying because if you've supported the corruption, you're part of the problem. That's it. So there's no getting around it.
Well, yeah, I mean, they had, you go to traffic court or you had a beef, there was a pay schedule. And if you were dumb enough not to hire one of the attorneys standing there and give them $100 and pay off whoever it was, you were an idiot.
Wait a minute. How about when you went to take your driver's test? Seriously. And I know girls who couldn't drive, but if their skirt was short enough, they were passing, trust me. And they knew it. They couldn't parallel park, and that was the one that failed more people, myself included. Because if you hit the curb, you were out. Come back again.
Yeah, now everybody can do it. They don't care. They just need your license.
That was the way to fail everybody. Yeah, so that's, you know what? But the ECB, on Thursday, I'm really not. I'm not looking for them to change. There are those who think, well, with all this new additions, the ECB may jump because they didn't jump last time. So they're at 20 billion, and then whatever else they're doing in their new special programs, the PPE. Maybe they'll jump it by another 20 billion. I don't think it makes a difference. But if they don't do anything, it's because they're not looking to get into a new battle with the Germans and, okay, we're getting what we want, back off, and let's see where this goes. So that's my call, is that they do nothing.
All right.
And that's it.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we'll see what the spreads do when they do.
Yeah, that'll be right. Exactly. So we'll see what the Euro Swiss and the Euro Yen especially do. And even the British pound gets a bid here. So, but this is some dollar unwind, and it tells you, a lot of the Euro Yen and Euro Swiss, of course, that's where a lot of the short Euro positions could be found. You can look at the chart and see the massive move. It's a lot of unwinding. This is not even, this is really not a major change yet. That's why, I'm looking at the 200-week moving average. Not that these are sacrosanct or not, but we did get a close on Friday, which was month end and a weekend above the 200-day moving average, which was, I think, a pretty good signal, and you see it's got some follow through. So now we'll go after the 200 week moving average. I think is at 113. Where's it at, John?
Hold on, I just have to. The 200 weeks, 113.32.
Yeah, and they're, the moving averages are just, to me, really good measures of mean reversion. But if we can do some damage there and then take that out, and then you'll get some new upward thrust.
Yeah, and you got a big convergence at that area on the monthly because you're running into fibs and the 50-month moving average. So you have a lot of things lining up there.
Yeah. Yep. So, okay, that makes perfect sense to me. So we've got a lot of stuff to watch, and that we will. But I'm not getting caught up in the politics of it. Anybody who follows my stuff, I avoid it like the plague because it's just gibberish. It's your personal feelings, which are more than good. But I'm not looking to lock up with people. I'm not looking to argue. I'm just looking for opportunities to express them through trades. And I think we've really been doing a pretty good job throughout this. So, and patience has certainly been rewarded. Sometimes too patient. And that's it. Any other questions? Pete's been quiet. I know I took the thunder out of the political discussion, but that's not for me.
All right, Ira, I got to jump. So thanks for
Okay.
coming.
All right.
All
Take
right.
care. All right. Bye-bye.